I thought it was gonna get me. I thought I was dead.
Hey folks, welcome back. Three Corners of Horror, and man, we got a doozy for you. You know, with the summer ending, we figured we'd take one last dip into the water. But before we get going, let's give a shout. Little what's up to my two co-hosts. Rick, you go first.
What's going on? Hope you guys have a good time sitting back. Maybe open up a nice cold one. And this is going to be a little different than what we've been reviewing, but that's the whole point of this channel: diversity and all types of films across the genre. So hopefully you enjoy it.
Joe.
Hey, hola. How's everybody doing? Glad you guys are joining us. Yep. So he picked shark. I live in Florida. We don't say the S word in Florida, so thanks a lot for picking this for us. But enjoy the show.
Yes, we're gonna dive into my buddy here, who's basically one of the most used, I would say, creatures when it comes to like underwater horror. But before we get into the movie, let's talk about something real quick. As far as the shark horror genre, it's been a difficult time finding one of them to basically live up to the legendary movie of Jaws. I mean, what do you guys think about the whole shark horror genre in general? Joe, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's hard to be able to recreate what Jaws did. I think a lot of it more lately is the CGI. There's not really a lot of footage of an actual looking shark. They all tend to be CGI, making them a little bit more exaggerated. And kind of once you see it's not as real. Whereas in the original Jaws, they did use a robot, but they did use footage of a real shark.
Big shout out to Bruce the shark.
Hey, what do you think, Rick?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jaws, if you know me, it's in my top 5, probably top 3 films, not just horror films of all time. So my scale as far as grading a shark movie is going to be, a lot less forgiving than others. And I believe the one thing with Jaws is it's not just a film about the shark. It's about the characters. It's an adventure. And a lot of films after that seem to forget that. They want to just go for the shark, what kind of jump scares it can get out of you. And Jaws wasn't really about that at all. And there's a few horror films out there that involve sharks that are pretty damn good. This one, for me, kind of falls in the middle somewhere, but we'll talk about that.
Speaking of the movie we're going to talk about, let's get right into it. 47 meters down. It came out 2017. You can watch it right now on Hulu. It stars Claire Holt and Mandy Moore as two sisters. Mandy Moore being Lisa, who basically had a breakup with her boyfriend. So her and her sister Kate decided, well, let's go down to Mexico on vacation. So while they're in Mexico, basically Lisa's trying to forget about what happened in her relationship. They decided that, hey, why don't we just, for once, do some little shark cage diving, which I would never do personally. I mean, I love great white sharks, but I'm never getting in a cage. So they get into this cage and things don't go as planned. And it kind of takes a downward turn. Excuse the pun, but so as they're basically surrounded by great white sharks, they feel the cage kind of like give in a little bit. So as they're being brought up, the cage basically, the wire just snaps and they go all the way down to the bottom. This movie turns into like a more like a survival type horror. I mean, you're stuck at the bottom of the ocean. The boat is up top, and between you and the boat is basically a school of great whites, because I think there were like 3 or 4 that were swimming around. So let's get first impressions of the film. Let's start off with our resident shark experience Florida native, Joe.
Well, first of all, I would never do that myself either. I like to go out when I go out on vacation, try something a little crazy here and there. That is not anything on the top of my list. And if anybody invites me, I won't do. I may get on the boat with you. However, the boat looked janky enough. So I wouldn't have gone on at all together, and so there's no way you could convince me. But like when I'm here in Florida, I'm in the beaches, I'm always looking out. And I go to New Smyrna Beach, which is like the shark capital of the world. And any given time you're in the water going, as you're looking around. For me, I've had a couple experiences with like with almost drowning. So my thing with the movie is just being in the water, because even though you're in water, it's kind of claustrophobic. It's not like claustrophobic like being in a cave. It's just claustrophobic because when you're on ground, you can run faster. When you're in water, you can only swim as fast as you can, and your lungs are only going to be able to hold up. So if a shark's coming for you, you're going to be kind of screwed.
Rick, what do you think?
2 things about me right now, and this movie kind of touched on both of them. I'm scared of the ocean. I have this fear of the ocean. It's like I don't believe we belong there. It's a whole new world, and I'm claustrophobic. Joe just mentioned that a few seconds ago. And this film, what it does well is does capture that feeling of claustrophobia and the unknown. I'm gonna detail one scene in particular when one of the characters they're on the bottom of the ocean, and she has to swim to a certain destination she's trying to get to. Next thing you know, the floor beneath her disappears, and it's nothing but darkness. And that scene alone, I was just so uncomfortable watching that, because you don't know what's down there. And the fact that, like Joe said, my claustrophobia, forget the cage. I'd rather be in the cage, honestly, than being in the unknown.
Exactly.
So the one thing the movie got right was the atmosphere, as far as being trapped down at the bottom of the ocean. Because going into the movie, anyone could put 2 and 2 together and know that something's gonna happen. The cable's gonna snap. They're gonna fall to the bottom, 47 meters down, and they're gonna be trapped there. That's okay. We got that out of the way. But the way they filmed being trapped down there, as far as the atmosphere itself, the murkiness of the water, you don't really know what's around you. That was pretty well done.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's go into like one scene in particular where, like, what was your first reaction when the cage basically, the wire started snapping a little bit? I mean, what was your first reaction to that whole scene?
Like I said before, I didn't get any reaction out of that. If anything, I was like, okay, here it is. And when they hit the bottom, my biggest gripe is I don't think the filmmakers really knew what to do once they hit the bottom. Because there was a lot of scenes to me that felt really repetitive.
Yes.
Like the character of Kate kept having to go up to contact Taylor. It felt like she did that like 5 times. And they kept going over the same material over and over. And they kept talking. They kept always bringing up their oxygen supply.
Yes.
And it got pretty low pretty quick. And the problem is, once it got low, the last it felt like 30 minutes, 40 minutes of the film, it never got to the point where it needed to get to. It never drained out until they needed it for plot reasons or to get into the climax of the film. So I think the kind of structure and the pacing was a bit off on that sense of the film, and that kind of took me out of it a bit.
Joe?
Yeah, see, since you had recommended as I was watching it and that started snapping, my first thought was, if Junior would have made us do this, I would have looked at him and been like, see, this is why we don't do this. This is exactly why you don't do this stuff. And when we get out of here, I'm going to kick your ass. And as you're tumbling down, I probably would have been, as we got to the bottom, there would have been some words between us. Because, again, why would you want to do this? Like, what, I get it would be great to see sharks so close, but as Rick said, it's their world, so I don't want to go down there. And then, you might have one of those one day that is just, instead of it's going to swim close, it's going to go, you know what, I'm hungry. And then, that human in the cage looks pretty tasty right now. You don't know how they're going to react. They're animals, they're killers.
And this goes back to what we were saying before too, that in the film, like the way they filmed the sharks in this movie, it's almost a little bit unrealistic because they're main characters and they always somehow got away from them. Like, and they did that just to give you jump scares. And I don't think that's the best effective way to go about it in a shark movie. Then you got these two sisters where you said it, the main point of going out there because she got dumped by her boyfriend because she was boring. And she wants to kind of stick it to him saying, listen, look, I'm in a cage filming sharks. Look at me now. And the fact that I don't know if she's old or not, but Kate, the sister, Lisa, kept telling her, no, you got to do this. You got to do this. You got to show them you're not boring. And I think that was like the worst possible way to get these two characters trapped in the shark cage. I'm like, I just don't care about either of these two.
There was no character development.
No.
Like you said, it was right in the beginning. You see a little them trying to have a good time. With all the time they spent swimming up and all that, we could have gotten a bit more in the beginning. Saw them talk. Actually, made you want to care for them, like you said.
Yeah, Jaws has Hooper, Quentin, Brody, and I could watch those guys forever. Forget the shark. I could watch those guys. These two, I was rooting for the sharks to kill both of them.
But you know what it was too is with those characters, there was tension always on the boat with those characters in Jaws. Here, there was no tension whatsoever. The tension was basically fabricated with the sharks to the point where they're in the bottom and they're actually apologizing to each other. Which I'm sorry, if we're stuck in the bottom, I'm not gonna apologize. I want to get the hell out of there, because one. No way am I getting in the rusty cage because that cage was, first of all, I was dusty as hell.
That whole ship, one of you guys mentioned it. The whole ship was shady.
Yeah, I mean,
from the beginning.
As soon as you walk in, you're looking. I would look around and be like, "Nah, I'm good." Like this looks like it's gonna fall apart on me, And you look at the cage, you would be like, "Are you sure that? Nah, I'm out. I'll see you guys later."
Hello? Can you hear me?
Taylor, can you hear us?
Lisa, I can hear you.
Okay, we're heading up now.
No, it's not safe. You need to stay in the cage.
We don't have a choice. Kate has been badly hurt. We are coming up now.
All right, but you need to go very slowly. Do you understand? If you ascend too quickly, you're going to get the bends.
I try to compare this movie to The Shallows, where, yes, you had the CGI shark, but it was more about the character and what she was going through and the reason she went to that beach. And then you had these two sisters where the reason that they went to do it was, I mean, it was kind of lame. And it's unfortunate because Mandy Moore is a hell of an actress and she felt kind of wasted in this film. And then, and then once they, and the funny thing is like, there was a lot of unrealistic things in this film. Like, for example, the minute that case dropped, I'm sorry, they would have been dead. Because they're dropping so fast, they would have blew up. Yeah, the pressure would have blew up. The pressure,
because we like here we've got like springs, and when you try, and I'm not even trying to swim that far. You get far enough, you feel that pressure. Your ears feel it. You have a heart, like you can feel your body basically like being kind of crushed by it. So yeah, that's another thing. At the speed that they fell, they wouldn't have survived that.
I had the same criticism with The Shallows. When she's getting pulled all the way down near the climax of the film, like she would have just definitely, been obliterated. And this film, they did the same exact thing. And going back to The Shadows, which again, that film, to make it kind of different than other shark movies, that's a survival film. It shows you her journey trying to stay alive in that film. And this one, it just felt like the two sisters, all they kept talking about was, oh, you got dumped. Woe is me. You gotta, show your boyfriend that you're not boring. I'm like, oh God, stop.
No, even when the scenes where you're hoping things escalate, like for example, when they send, I mean, I don't know why they would do this when they send Javier down with extra oxygen tanks to basically, give them to her. I mean, and then they're still stuck in a cage. They see the light. Oh, I see him. I see him. And I mean, even like when I think it's Lisa that goes looking for him. I mean, even his death scene was just poor.
Wasted opportunity.
Oh
They
my
should have
God.
just had the flashlight stuck within the crevice of a rock with his hand still holding it and his hand severed.
Yeah,
That's what I was okay. Let's show some gore, but honestly, until you mentioned it was PG-13, I didn't check. I assumed it was R. Like
Well, and Javier was bringing down because Javier was swimming down with the cable.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
extra cable so that way they can latch it on. Because then they bring him back up again, nice and slow, and then the cable drops again. Your first cable didn't work, so now you want to send me a second cable. Like, if that cable was better, shouldn't that cable have been on in the first place? Like, yeah, I mean, well, another like, what even though you don't really see the shark attacks, but like one of my other favorite shark movies actually is Open Water.
yeah, yes.
Because it's the characters. Like you're sitting there. I mean, and that's another thing that like the scuba diving part. Literally, that movie shows my fear that they're gonna forget about me. And then I see that movie and I go, that's what I've been thinking about the whole time. Why I won't do that. But in that movie, you knew that you got the sense of the sharks, but you cared more about them. Like you knew what was coming, and you like felt sorry for both of them. As you said with this one, I'm just like, you didn't get attached to the characters, any of the characters.
In that film, Open Water, to me, it was about isolation. It's two characters stuck in one spot, and the whole film is through their point of view. So you're in their shoes the entire time. You know what it feels like to be trapped in one spot, surrounded by hungry sharks. In this film, even though they're on the bottom of the ocean, I just feel like they were all over the place. Like no sense of real danger ever occurred to me.
No, and I try to go back. Like another shark movie I like is the Reef. I don't know if you ever seen the Reef.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I mean, that was good because first of all, I think that's one of the films where the shark looks so real in every in the scenes, and you felt it linger. You felt it was around. And it was a survival film. It was basically, they're trying to get to an island or they're trying to get to land and, the sharks are around. But for them to be stuck in that cage and the sharks rarely show up. Only when basically Lisa takes off and then when Kate tries to get the tank and, later on in the movie. I mean, those sharks should have been there the whole time.
Yeah.
That's the issue. They only use the sharks when convenient.
Yeah.
It wasn't realistic. They used them as a jump scare, which you should never use a shark as a crutch just for a jump scare.
And they didn't really they didn't look real to me. I mean, they looked like a shark, but it looked over exaggerated.
I didn't look into it, but my first experience with the film was they used a lot of stock footage of real sharks out and about, but when the shark came into the action sequences, it was CGI. And you could tell it was CGI, and there was kind of a disconnect between real and what was computer generated.
Well, one of the scenes where when they first get in the cage and the sharks are going around, you have that one shark that goes really close. Like I looked at it 3 times and I was like, wow, it looks like they have LED screens up. And then basically they just put like screens against the cage and then you have the shark going by. I mean, that's how kind of cheesy it looked when I seen that. And I was like, wow, this looks bad. I mean, and it's unfortunate because it's like you could do so much. I mean, technically you could, I mean, I wouldn't have done it, but you could have filmed with real sharks in those scenes. And
Open Water did that.
Yeah. Open Water did that. I mean, like literally, I saw a documentary on it. They literally swam with sharks.
They were somewhat CGI at times, but they got away with it. This one, like the one scene that I like the most is when Kate grabs the tank and Lisa's yelling at her, he's, get down, and he swims right over her. That was probably the only coolest scene when it came to showing the shark.
Yeah.
Because for me, I would have been scared. That's the only scene I'm like, oh my god, this thing's swimming above you. But then it's like once again they wasted the shark. It took off. I think it came back around. That's when it got her. And let's go back to that scene in particular, because all of a sudden the shark comes, attacks Kate, and then Kate basically disappears. And Lisa's the whole time freaking out, wasting oxygen. And she decides, I'm gonna go look for Kate. Now, realistically, you're not gonna know where she is, even if you're talking to her.
Yeah.
You can't follow the voice in the water. You can't. And once again, here we go, another unrealistic thing that they did. And it's sad because I wanted to see more of that attack on Kate. I mean, what was your guys' take on that in general?
I think that, well, to kind of play devil's advocate a bit, they did kind of give you a reason how she found her with the light when she was flashing the flashlight around. And once Kate saw the light and Kate responded, where Lisa was putting the light, that's the direction she's going to go. Like, if any of us were in that situation, we would probably go that route. Well, that's the only way you can like try and find somebody in the deep blue sea all the way down into the depths of the ocean. Not saying it's going to work, but at least the film tried to give you a reason as to how, Lisa was going to find her sister.
We're gonna make it, Kate. We're gonna make it. Just stay with me, okay? We're out of flares. What do we do?
Break for the surface now! Drop your BCD and swim!
At a certain point in the movie, they're told basically, don't waste your oxygen. When your oxygen gets low, you start hallucinating, you start having certain effects. And
well, that was because if they were going to use a second tank,
Yeah.
they were going to get the necrosis. What was it? Oxygen necrosis, was it? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of foreshadowed that way early in the film.
For me, too early. I mean,
Well, that's the problem. You're right. It was early, and because he said that,
early.
and this is my thing I always bring up with Chekhov's gun. Once you establish something like that in a film, you have to pay it off later. And this film did that, and it did kind of ruin the twist, at least for me. In my opinion.
I seen that and think about it. I completely forgot about the twist on it, but once I heard that, and this might have been like the third time I saw it. Once I heard it, I'm like, oh, all right. So I see. Like I said, you basically have now, you're going to let us know that what's going to be coming up is going to be based on what you just finished stating. It might happen because it's going to actually end up happening.
And the funny part is, like, as they're going up, that's when he tells us, no, you have to stay where you're at for a little bit so your body could get used to you ascending again.
The bends. They kept
so avoid the bends, but they're decompressing or doing something like that.
Yeah, so they dropped down real quick, and that wasn't an issue. They rise up. All right, we gotta stop. You gotta basically wait a couple minutes.
What was it? Nitrogen bubbles into the brain, right? That's what it was.
Yeah.
So they finally get to the surface, and they start swimming to the boat, and now you get the shark attacks. Which I thought the one cool scene in a way was, which kind of reminded me of Jaws a little bit, was when Lisa was trying to get on the boat and the shark jumped out got out the water, pulled her in. I mean, I thought that scene was pretty cool. And then she's fighting it. I mean, and she basically gouges the eye, which, not many shark movies would have thought about that, which I thought was pretty original in a way.
I was going to say that too. Yeah. I've never seen a shark movie do that.
Yeah. And then they bring on the boat. Once they got on the boat is where she starts hallucinating, which then you start going back to what they were talking about, basically with the bends, with the oxygen, with everything. And then it gets revealed that basically she's still on the bottom.
Under that much, grab him! Get him in the boat now!
that's another thing. So when they rescue her, she looks at her cut as she's above, and that's when you get the slow reveal, because you see the blood is kind of moving like the way it would be in water. So there you are with a gash, and you're like this. Why are there no sharks around the cage? I mean, literally, there's blood that's coming out. That's basically the call for them. There was not one single shark around trying to get to her, trying to get to where the source of this blood is coming from.
But to my point is that she's hearing the voice of the guy on the boat.
I think what you're trying to say, JR, is in order to hear Taylor on the boat, they had to be 40 meters, not 47 meters.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. And all of a sudden she hears him loud and clear, which she couldn't hear him the whole time. And that kind of, I was like, hold on.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think
about that either.
Yeah,
you're right.
How is that possible? And for me, it's like, I was disappointed. I mean, I love the twist. I was disappointed that it was like foreshadowed way too early in the movie. Wasted that whole scene with the sharks and basically the attacks. And it's just like, if they would have stuck to a little bit more realism, I think this movie would have been a hit. I mean, it was a sleeper hit in a way because it made more money than they thought it was going to make.
The film was originally stated for just DVD release. And then somehow a studio picked it up, released it theatrically as well.
And the captain of the boat was Matthew Modine.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy. I didn't know until after the movie.
Yep.
Matthew Modine was Taylor? What?
I used to like him because the first time I seen him was in the show The Shield. And he was
Full Metal Jacket
in the Shield.
Full Metal Jacket, man. Like,
Full Metal Jacket, too.
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket.
But real quick, though, to go back to the ending of the film, I honestly was not feeling this film as a whole towards the end, but when that twist did happen, which I was waiting for it, but when they showed her down in the depths, if I was a filmmaker in this film, I would have ended the film where she realized she was hallucinating. Okay, you got the Taylor on the radio just to give the audience a view as to she's not there. Okay, I could bypass that. I would have had her run out of oxygen and just die.
Yeah.
I would end the film right there.
Yeah, she was never saved.
But once they saved her, I was like, okay, Mandy Moore, Hollywood film.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted to make sure they got their final girl.
Oh, we made it. We made it.
Please hear me. Lisa, listen. After my voice.
We made it, Kate.
Lisa.
My BCD got me free.
It was unfortunate because this one had a lot of potential because we haven't had a shark movie that basically gave you what would happen if the cage basically gives way and you go into the bottom. Which is a cool concept, but I think it was just unrealistically done.
Cool concept. I think that filmmakers had a good structure, a jumping on point. They knew the twist, they had an ending. They just didn't really know how to just fill the rest of the movie with
they didn't deliver it.
story.
No.
They didn't deliver it.
No. It could have been a good movie and ended up being somewhat like Chum. They just threw it into the water and let it float. All right, so we're running out of time, so let's do a quick overall final thoughts of the film and the grade. Let's start with Joe.
I'd give it a 2.5. Like, this is something that if you're looking to watch something, you've seen it all, and you want to check something you haven't seen before, this is a good, one to sit on the couch on a lazy day and check out. So, I know it's not like we hate it, but it was a good movie, but it is, something that will entertain you at least.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. And that's a low 3. Okay. The reason why I got that high to begin with, because I did enjoy some of the underwater scenes. Like I said, when they bypass like the actual cliff and there's nothing but darkness, that was shot really well. I wish there was more like marine life underwater. Like they could have had a lot more different varieties, especially being that deep. And like Joe said, it could have been darker. It didn't. Like, they were on the bottom of the ocean, but you didn't get that sense they were at the bottom of the ocean. It just felt like they were just in shallow water. But I do give him credit for some of the scenes at that point. I did like the twist. I appreciate it. It could have been a little bit better, but at least they attempted to do something a bit different. So, and it's a shark movie. I'm a little biased to that. So from a 2.5, I'm going to give him a 3.
For me, like I said, I like the concept. I thought it was original, creative. They could have delivered it a lot better. I think I still go back to the PG-13. You cannot do a shark movie and have a PG-13. You can't. And you're taking the natural like predator out of the equation by basically holding them back. I mean, the good shark movies are rated R for a reason.
Yeah.
The kills. I mean, the shark movie is all about the kills, the unexpected kills, the ones that come out over. You feel the shark roaming around. You don't see him, but you feel it. You know it's out there. This one wasted 3 sharks, not just one, 3 sharks. And for me, Mandy Moore is so talented, and I felt bad that basically she could have took this and brought it to a whole nother level. Probably with a better.
I don't think she had good material to work with.
No, she didn't.
She worked with the material she got.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because I kind of like the fact that, oh wow, Mandy Moore's doing horror.
It's a PG-13 film. Okay, I'm with you on that 100%. But it still could have worked if they gave you a compelling story, compelling characters you cared about. They just didn't do any of that. It just felt like we got a known celebrity in this role. Let's just put her in the tank, and sharks already got a built-in audience. They're gonna watch it anyway. In my opinion, watch Three-Headed Shark Attack if you want to see just gory, over-the-top slapstick horror shark film.
For
They
me,
got Rob Van Dam in it. I know Joe.
All right, so everybody, thank you for joining us again. Once again, hit the subscribe button below. We have a lot more coming your way. October's around the corner. You know what October is. Great movies, and we are ecstatic, especially with the one right behind Rick. So everybody have a good time. Peace. See you guys next week.
Yeah.